Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's fireside chat, of course, entitled The Future of Transactions and Payments and Tackling the Next Wave of Online Commerce. Certainly a very fitting topic, given the way that 2020 has gone for all of us in this region and all across the world. My name is Franco Varona. I am the managing partner of Foxmont Capital Partners, which is a Philippine-based venture capital fund. I'll be the moderator for today's chat. With me today are David Sun of Stripe and Fong of StoreHub. Perhaps, David, you could introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure thing. Thanks a lot, Franco. Hi, everyone. I'm David. I lead Stripe's expansion and growth to new markets in Southeast Asia. A brief intro about Stripe. We are a global financial infrastructure company, and we work with the likes of Atlassian, Slack, Grab, Booking.com, Amazon, to help them build their entire payment stack so that businesses can get started very quickly and accept payments all over the world.
Thanks, David. And Hong, perhaps an introduction from you?
Sure. Hi, my name is Hong. I'm the co-founder and chieftain at StoreHub. StoreHub is an operating system for retailers and restaurants. We have over 15,000 of them all across Southeast Asia. And basically what we do is we help primarily offline retailers go online, but also tackle all that is needed kind of end-to-end to support the growth and management of their businesses.
Thanks, guys. So today we have a pretty short 20 minutes to cover obviously a very big topic and one that's very relevant in this year. I will, however, try to get to some questions from the chat and from the audience. So if you do have any questions for the guys, please feel free to drop a question and we'll try to address it towards the end of the conversation. But to start, let's kick off with a question that I think would be most relevant. Obviously, online commerce and payments have really changed, perhaps over the last 8 months, more so than any other time in the recent future. What new opportunities and or challenges are you both seeing emerge in the region? Let's start with Hong.
Yeah, so I think when we primarily serve merchants in the industry, and so when all these lockdowns because of COVID started happening across all the markets that we operated in the Philippines and then Malaysia and Singapore, Thailand, we started to see these I guess people in terms of behavior changing, and one thing that's particularly interesting is how. For example, in the past, we used to think that technology adoption or digital in general is something reserved for the young or for the people who are digital savvy or technology savvy, and that the older folks are the ones that are in the backwards category. But ironically, one really interesting pattern that we saw, and this has a very direct impact on payments, I think, is how the technology adoption by older generations, and you want to call them the X's or the baby boomers, whatever it is. Our uncles and aunties across the region were one of the fastest adopters of technology because of their fear of the transmission of the virus. They're like, okay, we need to take out our phone to scan a QR code. They're like, oh boy, please make sure you take out your phone and scan. Don't forget, you can trace. The government can trace you. And so obviously all these behaviors change amongst consumers. And so what we started to see was that, for example, our QR ordering system, which was more of a nice thing to have in the past, now became a necessity for many businesses. And in the past, they would be like, oh, I have a very old demographic. And the demographic, these uncles and aunties, they'll struggle to take out their phone to kind of like order food and pay with it if you try to get them to, because they were like, oh, I don't know, uncle, auntie don't know how to do something, right? They'll say things like that. But all of that's changed, right? And so amazingly, some of our restaurants are now saying, man, our best customers who love the system are the uncles and aunties. And so payments, there's a backstory to how we managed to get that all up and running really quickly and working together with Stripe. But I think, just really enabling that and that pattern and that behavior of what has changed because of the pandemic has been really interesting for us to observe.
Yeah, I think that's basically true. I've got stories to share about my own parents that were basically all about cash, and then now I probably know a little bit more about online payments than I do. David, tell us about Stripe. What sort of growth are you seeing based on the story that Hong just told us?
Yeah, I like how it's a life or death situation for some of the consumers there. It's good old survival pressure. So we have seen the huge move to online all over the world, not just in Asia. If you look at Latin America, I think more than 13 million people have actually made their first online purchase in March. Similarly, in China, so much of online grocery volume is just spiking up in China. I think one of the main things that is very interesting for us is not just the digitization of payments, but how a lot of businesses are thinking about their cash flow. So before this, a lot of businesses might have been fine with checks and cash because they're okay with having long payment cycles. But right now, cash flow is a huge issue. A lot of these businesses are thinking about how do I use cards and other online payments to make sure that I'm able to get paid or pay my suppliers more quickly.
That's true. I mean, what you both are basically talking about are new opportunities and new ways that both of your businesses can grow. The question there is, do you find that your systems, both of your systems, were future built, and for that, meaning, or meaning, did you have to build anything to address these new opportunities, or were you guys already prepared for it? Sorry, let's go back to you, David. Let's start with you.
Yeah. Thankfully, that was the basis on which Stripe was founded and built, even from 2010. The one thing that we realized we had to make additional investments in was to ensure that Stripe's reliability stayed at 5 nines, is 99.999% uptime, so that even on days with extreme spikes, we are able to serve our users. Like, we've had no issues on 9.9, 10.10s, and 11.11s. But this year, we've made additional investments to make sure that we are able to maintain this level of quality and reliability and security as we serve more and more users coming online.
Fantastic. And Wai Hong, how about yourself? StoreHub, did you make any changes, or were you prepared for it?
Well, firstly, we're grateful for the 99.999% uptime. That's definitely helpful for us. But I think, on our side, when we started out as a company 7.5 years ago, we started out very simply as an iPad point of sale, a very simple, but I guess at that time, interesting product for the market. Of course, today, the ecosystem of StoreHub is a lot more than that. And one thing that's been interesting for us is that we've never seen ourselves as a point of sale company. We've always seen ourselves as a commerce company, helping small businesses in whatever way, shape, or form. And a big part of that comes from my own e-commerce background. So I think when we saw all these opportunities to navigate, for example, ordering without having to come in contact with a waiter, or if you're not even at the restaurant itself, how do you actually get stuff delivered? All those things were very close to our DNA. And yes, we did have to make some drastic changes when lockdowns were announced. I think in Malaysia, when the lockdown was first announced, we made some really crazy decisions to kind of like put the entire company of 280 people to work on a singular product called Beep Delivery, which was really just simply to enable our restaurants an alternative platform to kind of like connect and sell their food directly to the customers, as opposed to going to the marketplaces that were typically charging 25 to 30% commissions. And for us, many of our customers would not survive on paying that kind of commission rate for 100% of their sales. So I think for us, it was fundamentally about moving so quickly. Literally within 2 days, we launched the product because we knew that these guys have a window of about 20 days of free cash flow. David talked a little bit about cash flow and how critical this is, especially for smaller businesses. And that's exactly the kind of window they have. And so if we didn't respond in 2 days, if we took 15 days, for example, to get a product like this off the ground, it could be life or death for businesses themselves.
That's right.
So yeah, that's what we did. It's fairly irrational because, you start thinking about it, like, why do you pit yourself against some of the biggest, most heavily funded companies in the world out there? And I think for us, we were thinking about it that way. We were thinking of this simply, how do we help our customers survive? Because if they don't survive, we don't survive. And that's essentially what went through our mind.
Yeah, that's true. That's one of those opportunities that I don't think anybody could have imagined. We were all so used to receiving our deliveries the way we did, through the other platforms, or making a direct call. At least here in the Philippines, it was a lot of calling to call centers. And that's obviously changed quite a lot here in the Philippines, and obviously in the rest of the region. There's an interesting story there between StoreHub and Stripe, isn't there? You guys were talking about this in the back room earlier. So tell us about that. You guys were able to integrate fairly quickly?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start, and maybe David can add on anything I miss out. But essentially what happened was that we were struggling on the payments front with Beep, right? There were just multiple problems that we were facing, and it was really hindering our ability to scale the growth of the platform. And so I reached out to Stripe. We had not used Stripe in the past. We were brand new, kind of like, I know John from Stripe, and he from for a long time now, but we never actually did business together. But I reached out to him and said, how quickly, John, can you get us started? And he's like, dude, I can get it done same day. Like, and I'm like, really? Is that the fastest you can do? Well, look, I mean, if you really pushed it, we could probably get to 15 minutes or something. I don't know. And so we worked together on that. And I really wanted to get a platform up and running ASAP. And so over, I think it was a Zoom call or WhatsApp call, I can't remember now. He walked me through the process, and I type as fast as I could, 100 words per minute kind of rate, and we got the first payment accepted within 10 minutes of setting up, and I was really excited because this was critical. This was going to enable us to be able to scale our platform beyond what it was able, kind of doing at that time. Because literally every failed payment, every problem we have with payment it has kind of a ripple effect, right? It impacts that consumer's experience. Not just for that one time itself, but for the chance of him coming back to the platform. So I think that was particularly critical, and we were very happy that Stripe was able to get us sorted out within 10 minutes.
Yeah, David, how do you get everybody moving within your team to roll a product out in 10 minutes?
Finally, that's the magic sauce of Stripe. In all the markets that we are in, we are able to allow any user, any company to set up a Stripe account and accept payments in just minutes. It is something that we've built from day one, and we're just so happy that this unique feature of our product has helped many restaurants and SMBs in Malaysia just fight another day and keep their business going. So when Wyong reached out to us, to be honest, it was something that feels very normal to Stripes, but it's magical to a lot of our new users.
Yeah, I mean, 10 minutes to do anything is amazing, I think, especially in these times. Oftentimes, nowadays, I look at the pandemic, I look at quarantine, and I see that as a source of innovation, right? We see that with you guys, with Beep. We see that with even the 10 minutes that you were able to integrate your system. What about the pandemic as a function or a driver of scale in Asia? What do you guys think of that? I mean, has the pandemic helped you scale faster? Has it hindered your growth? Tell us a little bit about that. David, let's start with you.
Sure thing. So what the pandemic has done for our businesses is brought about a lot more businesses going online. And with that, it does create a lot of scaled effects on our side, be it having the data that we need to improve our product features, to say reduce the cart decline rate in each market. The great thing is at Stripe, we are always thinking at scale and always asking ourselves, like, for everything that we ship, can it serve billions and billions of dollars every single day? And we're just very happy that we have this almost like this proof that our hard work and investments have paid off. But we're very aware that for the next 5 years, there's even going to be a lot more. And what we've done to prepare ourselves to operate even at greater scale is to just improve some of the ways we've run internally, be more aware of the diversity of users that we'll be working with, not just primarily online businesses, but also businesses that were offline for a long time and coming online now.
Right. And for StoreHub, Wyong?
It's huge, man. Like, I think for years we were always trying to figure out how do we do sales without having to turn up at the customer's premises. Like, here in Southeast Asia, right, we've got this whole, I like my face-to-face, I get to see you, I get to trust you more. And what compounds that problem is that in places like Manila where we operate, getting from point to point, that's crazy, right? Like, you'll be lucky to get 3 meetings done in a day if you're kind of like traveling all across town.
It's like,
right?
never happens.
Never happens. Absolutely. And so what's been great about kind of like scaling that side of the business is that now everyone's like, you say Zoom call? Okay. You know, like, okay, like, so you can actually get 6, 7, 8 meetings done a day, and it's not a problem because you don't have to translate or anything like that. And so I think from a scaling perspective, we're seeing that much more. And I guess people are kind of like removing those barriers, right, of like their preconceived notions of I can only trust someone if I've seen it in person. Those kind of like are removed because they're now forced to explore and appreciate, is there an opportunity for me to understand and trust over a call like this. So I think that's something that's been very interesting to see from a kind of a scaling perspective. How do we do that? I think also the other thing that we saw is that a lot of businesses, more traditional businesses, are now a lot more open to the adoption of new opportunities, new technology. You know, that's something that wasn't always the case. It was really tough to convince you know, businesses who've had it good for a very, very long time. And things are good, why fix anything, right? And so I think right now, when things are very challenging across the board for everybody, you know, people we've seen businesses who have been in business for 30, 40 years, never kind of like thought about anything like this. And then they decide to come work with us simply because of what's happening. And we're grateful for that. And we're very grateful for that chance to scale that way.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. You know, one of the things when March started and lockdown happened, at least here in Manila, I think there was really an impending sense of doom. I mean, we were all very worried and nervous about everything from the economy to our health and everything. But what's happened in the months since is that we've been, you know, there's hope, right? And not only that this will be all over soon, but there has been some great innovations. There has been ways that we can all kind of meet over Zoom, for example, and you know, I don't have to deal with Manila traffic, for example. And I think that's a great way that shows the resilience of all of us actually in this region. Guys, we've got only 3 minutes left in this very short, unfortunately, very short session. I wish we had more time. I did want to ask about Asia. I wanted to ask about the importance of it. Of course, David is representing a company that was founded in the USA, and of course, StoreHub itself was founded in Asia. Can you guys tell me about the opportunities that you see and the importance of Asia moving forward? David, let's start with you at Stripe.
Sure thing. I think a lot of us are aware of the large opportunity in Asia, so there's a lot to talk about that. But what's really important to Stripe is that Asia is really core to our mission of increasing the GDP of the internet, because so much of the world's GDP is in APAC. And when we think back to the days of the internet starting, we wanted to make things borderless, but payments is something that hasn't really been borderless. I think what we're seeing is, and the bet we're making here is, a lot of things are now moving from Asia to the US and to Europe. And there's a bet to be made here, like things we want to learn about how about new consumer models that are emerging and new payment methods. These are things that are great for Stripe as a company. And to that, we've also set up a product and engineering hub in Asia so that we can build like very localized products like FPX bank transfer payments for our local users.
Yeah, I can imagine that that localization is key to a business like yours. Waihong, and yourself?
So I lived for about 10 years in Melbourne, and then I think for a long time I felt like Asia's the place to be because there's just so many problems to solve, and as an entrepreneur, I think that's where you're drawn to, right? Like that's the where there are problems, there are opportunities, and I think even right now in the midst of the pandemic, I think we don't necessarily have all kind of like the good infrastructure that we typically see in different other countries to kind of deal with the challenge that we have. And the countries that have done well are primarily from a technology perspective, like their infrastructure and kind of like their accelerate, like the rate of adoption of technology there is what has helped them to kind of like deal with all this. And so I think as a technologist, as an entrepreneur, as someone who's based here in Southeast Asia at least, we see a massive opportunity to be able to kind of like, you know, turn our understanding of how things, you know, can work together to help bridge these problems and actually put them to work, whether it's a form of supporting uncle and auntie at a small little restaurant, or or being a foodie myself. I want all my favorite restaurants to survive, and you know, will be very sad if any of them die. And I think, that's the beauty of Asia. We've got great food. Let's keep it alive.
I like that. I think that's actually a great way to finish off the chat, as I see we've got 20 seconds left. We've got great food, so let's keep it alive. I hope we could put that in a banner somewhere for Guys, I'm going to eat into the time just a little bit more. I just want to ask one last question, and maybe you guys can give me like one sentence each. What's next for your businesses? What can we expect? Wai Hong, let's start with you.
Very simply, we just want to help small businesses not just transact online or offline, but to be able to engage their customers in a meaningful way, not just sending 10% discounts to everyone, but sending them targeted, useful promotions and engagement that will actually be meaningful for them.
Awesome. Thanks, Wai Hong. And yourself, David, what's next for Stripe?
We've already been helping many businesses in North America build financial services into their business models, be it issuing credit cards, offline payments, or even lending. And we want to bring these things to Asia as soon as we can.
Great. Well, Wai Hong, David, thank you very much. I wish we had more time to talk about some of the great innovations that both your companies are bringing to the market, but I suppose we're out of time. Thank you both, and thank you, audience and chat, for joining us. I guess back to you, Wild Digital.